When my son Chase was 11 years old, he bought an iPod with his own money. Do you guys remember those? They're kind of like iPhones now, but they didn't have the phone feature. You could look things up on the internet, download things from the App Store. You could put a bunch of music on there or a couple of movies, and he bought it with his own money, so he was so intensely proud of it. That first day he got it, he wanted to see all the things that he could possibly do with this iPod. He was downloading music and games, and he was so excited. Then he called me on my iPhone because he wanted to FaceTime to see if he could FaceTime from his iPod to my iPhone. And I was looking at him as I was laying in bed. I told him that it was time to go downstairs and plug in his iPod. So he took his iPod and he took it downstairs and he was being kind of a little goofball with it. He was like, "Oh, look, FaceTime. I'm going to put you in the sink. Oh, look, FaceTime. I'm going to put you in the freezer. Oh, look, FaceTime. I'm going to put you in the garbage. Oh, look, Mom, I'm going to put you in the microwave." And that's when I said, "No," because I know this kid. And all of a sudden he put this iPod that he had just gotten in the microwave. He pushed 1 second, which was enough to just nuke your iPod entirely. 1 second permanently kills your iPod. And as he did that, I could hear the screams and the cries from downstairs. Oh my goodness, that iPod. My friends, technology is everywhere. So how do we talk to our kids about technology? So screen time, it's this huge thing in our lives, isn't it? I mean, you're watching me here on a screen right now. It's this big thing for both us and for our kids. Often in my social media, I see people either ranting about how much screen time kids use or bragging that they limit all their kids' screen time. Both, I think, are not great strategies. And so I want to give you some tips on what I have learned about screen time through 23 years of working with families and youth and kids, as well as 26 years of just being a mom. Screen time. Start early, friends. When you have toddlers, it is so tempting just to give them the iPad in the car on the road trip to grandma's house, or when you're in the restaurant and waiting. But trust me, and please hear that I'm not judging at all, because I have done those things, because sometimes you're just in a place and you are desperate. But trust me, having them have downtime where they are just bored is the birthplace of creativity. You can find a bored kid picking up little sugar packets and building a tower or coming up with something new to do. So I want to encourage you to just limit it often and early when they are little. Bored kids, honestly, that is what God has designed you to do. Boredom is that birthplace of creativity. And honestly, it's true for you and me too. When I'm bored is when I have some of the very best ideas. When they grow up a little bit more and it becomes time for a phone, I respect that all parents need to make that decision that's best for them and for their families. We have situations where sometimes a kid is at home and we no longer have a landline or anything like that. So make sure that you choose what's best for your families. But I want to give you some tips on how it worked as my kids grew up with technology. When they got a phone, we gave them to them about age 12. We were not early adopters. We were just a little bit later, kind of beyond the curve. But when it came time for practices and pickups, when it came to the time where they were mobile with all of their school activities, I really needed to know kind of where they were and give them a way to get a hold of me so that I knew that they were safe. I gave them their phone, and with their phone, we talked about it like a baby. Like their phone was just this little baby that they had to take care of because it was brand new to them. And with a baby, babies like to sleep a lot, so this phone needs to sleep a lot, and we put some boundaries around that. Babies, they can't go everywhere all the time, so we didn't allow the phone to kind of go to friends' houses or go to grandma's house if they were going to go there. Babies, they kind of need to stay home. Babies need to sleep in a crib, so we made sure that there's space downstairs. We never allowed the phones in the room. Space downstairs where that baby could sleep. So we started this way. But also babies, they have monitor systems. So when we gave our kids their first phones, what we did is we said, hey, we're going to upload it with a monitoring system. It's going to tell us everything, every click that you do. And I know that that's kind of a pain, my friends, but it's an important growth tool. So if they looked up anything, if they thought they were going to be funny and Google search something like the word butt, we would get an alert on our phone. And then the point is not that we were going to limit it, but is that we were going to have a conversation about it. And for 100% of our kids, this has happened. And meant that Ryan and I would get an alert on our phone like, oh no, so-and-so's looking up words that he shouldn't look up, or she's looking up things that she shouldn't look up. And then we'd come home that evening and we would sit down and have a conversation with them. We wouldn't necessarily take away the phone, but they had to have a conversation about what led them to look up that particular phrase or word or video or whatever it is. And we would have to talk it out. It was a great time for us to be able to sort of keep them in check and keep them in balance. So it kind of keeps some guardrails as they were learning to walk with their phone. So this baby phone, it would have to go to bed, and we would only let them have certain apps if we gave them parental permissions. But as our kids grew, and our kids showed us that they could be responsible with their phones, and we check from time to time just to make sure that they were. We would start to release our control. We started to let them download things kind of on their own and then just lead ourselves to a conversation. It got to the point where they could have social media and they could kind of choose those things, but we would have the passwords. But then as they continued to grow, we got to the point where we said, all right, now is the time where you can have your own passwords. Because here's the thing, parents, that I think we don't understand. So often, we don't want them to screw up. But the truth is that we actually do want them to screw up. We want them to screw up whether in our homes, while we can coach it out and while we can teach it, while we can correct them. Because otherwise, when they go off to college, they go off to whatever's next, they're going to screw up there and feel like they're out on their own. So really, we do actually want them to screw up when they're with us. When our kids were growing up, we actually never tracked them on their phone. I know a lot of folks use like Life 360 or Google Maps or things like that. But what we've tried to do is ensure really good communication and trust the kids. We let them know that we reserve the right to always kind of lean into that, to track them on their phone. But as long as they maintain our trust, then there's no need for us to do it. My kids, on the other hand, when they've had like a big event for sporting or something like that, and they're going to be moving around, I'll ask them. I'll say, hey, can I just track you for this weekend so that I kind of know where you are? Or I can just keep calling you, or you can call me and check in. Usually they're really happy to sort of like create that permission giving on our phones. And so that's one of the ways that we kind of help them kind of grow into their technology. And as adults, it's super funny. I went to go see my son in Chicago a few weeks ago, and he asked me if he could track me on Google Maps so that he would know when I was getting close to arriving at his door. So that was kind of fun. As they grow, they continue to have limits. When I worked at a college, there were still a lot of parents that were kind of tracking their kids. And so there were a lot of times where kids literally would put all their phones into one little block at the library, and they would leave them there while they went and did other things. And that kind of misses the point, doesn't it? That's when they're screwing those things up. So instead, let's just have those conversations while they're in our homes and expect them to screw up, so then we can have the conversations with them. And of course, the best way for your kids to be off screens, hate to tell you, but it's for you to be off screens. I know, darn it. It's that modeling and moderation. I'd say one step for your family could be this. It could be just to take a break for an hour a day as a family, or a day a week as a family, or a week in a year. Take that time to intentionally unplug yourselves and see what comes out of your beautiful boredom time together, how creative you can possibly be. It's through technology that you are hearing me today. And for the first time in history, we get to have a Bible and a pulpit right in our pockets. And I think that that's a good thing. It's not something to be afraid of, but it's something to lean into and use as you coach your kids to be really great adults. Thanks for joining me.